Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling something pretty fascinating, I think. The world of transgender parenthood.
Oh, that's a great topic.
Yeah, our jumping off point is this podcast called Transparent as a Transparent,
Okay.
and the first episode features Venus Lux. She's a 24-year-old transgender woman
Wow, okay.
who is raising her 14-year-old brother, 𝗧𝗓𝗏.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it definitely challenges like all those traditional notions of family.
Right. You don't often see that kind of setup.
Exactly. And that's part of what makes this deep dive so compelling. So transparent as a transparent, right? That title itself, it's like she's making a statement.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like she wants to be open and honest about her experiences.
Well, and I think it's really important, especially given that there's not a lot of resources or guidance out there,
Yeah.
specifically for transgender parents.
That's so true. And you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
Venus is only 24. She's a millennial.
Really?
You don't always think of someone that young being a parent, let alone like taking on the responsibility of raising their sibling.
It really makes you think about how our ideas of family are changing, you know?
It does. And I think Venus's age, it adds another layer to this whole thing. You know, it challenges those expectations we have, like who can be a parent?
For sure. And it's not just about biological age, right?
Yeah.
It's about being emotionally mature
Yeah.
and having that capacity for caregiving.
Totally. And then there's 𝗧𝗓𝗏, he's 14 years old, moving from New York to LA to live with Venus.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a huge change for teenagers especially.
Exactly. And it brings up this whole concept of chosen family. We always talk about like traditional families, but Venus and 𝗧𝗓𝗏,
Yeah.
they highlight how these bonds can form, especially when maybe, you know, things are tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think chosen family is becoming more and more relevant,
Mhm.
especially as, like, societal values change.
You think so?
Definitely. Like, we're seeing more acceptance of different family structures now than ever before, and LGBTQ plus visibility is increasing. All of that plays a part.
It makes you wonder about Venus's relationship with their own mother, too. She raised them in a pretty traditional Chinese household. I'm curious if that impacted her decision to step in for 𝗧𝗓𝗏.
I see what you mean. Cultural background can play a huge role in how we view family, for sure, and even how we approach parenting.
And Venus seems to really value open communication. I mean, she even talked to 𝗧𝗓𝗏 about her career as an adult entertainer.
Wow. Okay. That's a brave move, to address such a sensitive topic, especially with a younger sibling.
It is. It makes me think back to the podcast title again. Maybe it's not just about being transparent about being transgender. Maybe it's about being transparent about, like, everything.
It could be.
And 𝗧𝗓𝗏's response, it's amazing.
What do you say?
He said that her transition didn't change their relationship at all.
Wow. He seems so mature for his age.
He does, right. It makes you think, like, are young people just more open to these things? Like, more accepting of people's choices?
Maybe. I mean, he might be less influenced by all those societal norms.
I wonder if, on a deeper level, there's, like, more complexity to his feelings. Like, maybe there's some confusion mixed in there,
That's a good point. We're only seeing a glimpse into their lives.
And it makes me wonder, too, what motivated Venus to start the podcast in the first place? I mean, obviously, there's the transparency thing.
Right.
But could there be more to it?
There's almost always more to this story. Maybe she wants to connect with other people in similar situations.
Or even advocate for more understanding of trans families.
Definitely. And the fact that she chose to bring 𝗧𝗓𝗏 into this, to share this experience with him.
That says a lot about their bond, doesn't it?
Yeah, it suggests a lot of trust and intimacy. I'm really curious to see how their relationship evolves as they go through all of this together.
Me too. So far, this first episode has definitely left me with more questions than answers.
It's a good start though, right?
Oh, for sure. I'm hooked. What about you? Anything standing out to you?
I think what's fascinating me the most is this interplay between personal choices and, like, societal expectations.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Venus chose to live authentically as herself. 𗗧𗓏𝗏 chose to live with her. And they're both challenging those traditional ideas of what family's supposed to be.
That's a good point.
It reminds us that we have the power to define our own lives, even when those definitions are different from what society might expect.
It's about claiming that agency
Exactly.
and having the courage to be yourself, even when it's hard.
Absolutely. And they're challenging us to do the same.
To rethink our own assumptions.
Yeah.
And to be more open to the many different ways people live their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've touched on chosen family, Venus's age, and 𝗧𝗓𝗏's perspective, which is surprisingly mature.
It is.
What else can we unpack from this first episode? Like, what other insights can we get from Venus and 𝗧𝗓𝗏's story?
Well, one thing that strikes me is Venus's vulnerability.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, she's not only open about her identity and her career, she also talks about her struggles with her mom not being supportive.
That's right. That adds another layer of complexity to their story, doesn't it?
It does, and I think it speaks to something we all want,
What's that?
acceptance and belonging, even within our own families.
That's so true.
The fact that Venus is willing to share this struggle with 𝗧𝗧𝗏 and the listeners of her podcast, it's really courageous, and it shows how strong their bond is.
It also highlights the different ways people parent, right? I mean, Venus is clearly trying to give 𝗧𗧏 the support he maybe wasn't getting before.
You're right. It shows how fluid family roles can be, and
Yeah.
how those roles can change based on individual needs and what's going on in their lives.
And it brings up how cultural background plays a part in how we parent, too.
Totally. It's like a whole conversation about how parenting approaches can evolve over generations.
I wonder how 𝗧𗧏 is processing all of this, seeing these different parenting styles firsthand.
That's a great point. It's like he's got a front row seat to this evolving definition of family,
He does.
watching Venus challenge those norms and create this new dynamic with him.
It's really something. And it raises a ton of questions about where their relationship will go,
Yeah.
how they'll handle the challenges and what they'll learn along the way.
And what we as listeners can learn from them, about our own experiences with family and acceptance.
Absolutely.
It's just the start of their journey, but I'm really interested to see where it goes.
Me too. It's fascinating how Venus and 𝗧𗧏's story, it really gets at this core human need for connection, especially within families.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's
Yeah.
something we all crave, right?
Yeah.
To feel seen, to feel understood, to belong.
And belong, exactly.
And their story shows how these connections, they can pop up in the most unexpected ways.
They really can. Even when those traditional family structures are missing or maybe they're strained.
Right. And it's not just about getting acceptance from others, is it? It's also about finding that courage to accept yourself.
Totally.
Yeah.
Even those parts of ourselves that maybe don't fit in with what society expects.
Exactly. Like Venus embracing her transgender identity. That's a great example.
It makes me think about when Venus had the talk with 𝗧𗧏 about her career,
Yeah.
being an adult entertainer.
That's a pretty bold move.
It is,
To
right?
have that conversation, especially with a younger sibling. Yeah, a lot of people would consider that taboo.
It makes you wonder, though, if maybe shielding young people from certain parts of adult life, is it actually helpful?
That's such an interesting question. I mean, it really challenges those conventional ideas of what's okay to talk about with kids.
Exactly. What if being open and honest, even about things that are, sensitive, what if that actually builds more trust?
I think it's worth considering for sure. And it kind of circles back to that whole transparency thing Venus seems to be all about.
Yeah.
By being so open about her life,
Mm-hmm.
even the parts that people might judge, I think she's showing 𝗧𗧏 what it means to be authentic.
And to embrace who you are.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then there's 𝗧𗧏's reaction. It's pretty incredible.
He doesn't judge her at all. In fact, he admires her for going after what makes her happy.
Wow. That's amazing.
I mean, for a 14-year-old to have that perspective, it's
Right.
really something.
It really is. I think he's tapped into something a lot of adults struggle with.
What's that?
That happiness comes from being true to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what other people think.
And his advice is spot on. Let them judge. It's your life.
Right. That's so powerful. He gets it.
It's like he's saying, seeking validation from others can backfire.
Totally. It's about letting go of that need for approval and just embracing, the freedom that comes with being yourself.
You think maybe younger people just get that more easily because they're still figuring things out?
Maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, they haven't internalized all those societal expectations yet.
That makes sense. They're still figuring out who they are and what they want.
Exactly. And maybe there's something we can learn from them.
Right.
Like that willingness to question the norm.
To embrace being different.
Yes. To celebrate individuality.
It's like 𝗧𗧏 saying, you do you, And in doing so, he's giving Venus permission to do the same.
I love that. It's a powerful message of acceptance.
It really is. And it shows how they're supporting each other's growth.
It makes you think about how 𝗧𗧏's own sense of self is developing.
Oh, yeah. With a transgender parent who's challenging all these conventional ideas, it must be really shaping his view of the world.
Absolutely. He's seeing firsthand the power of embracing who you are, even when it goes against what society expects.
And I wonder how that will affect his own journey of, figuring himself out.
That's fascinating to think about.
Kids are so observant, aren't they? They pick up on these things.
We do.
And here's 𝗧𝗎 watching Venus live her truth, even when it might mean facing judgment.
That's a pretty powerful lesson in resilience right there.
It is. It's like proof that you can overcome challenges and still live a life you love, you know?
Mm-hmm. Even when society tries to tell you otherwise.
And it's interesting how 𝗧𝗎 compares Venus's parenting to their moms. He talks about Venus being more involved and more supportive.
Yeah. It shows just how many different ways there are to be a parent, right?
Yeah.
And how our backgrounds, experiences, all of it shapes our parenting styles.
Makes me wonder how these different approaches are affecting 𝗧𝗎, you know?
Oh, totally. Like how it shapes his sense of self, his relationships.
Right. It's like he's seeing these different models of what it means to be a parent, to be supportive, to be a caring figure in someone's life.
And that's got to be challenging some of his own ideas about family, right?
Absolutely. It's so complex. He's processing all of this and forming his own understanding of what a healthy family looks like.
Yeah. It really highlights all the different ways families operate and how those differences can shape who we become.
Yeah. Venus even admitted that she was worried about 𝗧𝗎 judging her when she decided to share her personal life with him.
Oh, yeah. It's a really vulnerable thing to do.
To risk rejection from someone you love, it's scary, especially when you're already, dealing with societal judgment for being who you are.
It is. I think that fear of being judged or rejected by loved ones is something a lot of LGBTQ plus people face.
It is. But 𝗧𝗎's response, so positive.
What did he say?
He told her he loves her no matter what. Unconditionally.
That's amazing.
It's a powerful testament to unconditional love.
It is, to be able to accept someone fully, even the parts that might challenge your own beliefs.
And it's a reminder that sometimes the people we think might not understand, they end up being the most compassionate.
So true. And it speaks to the power of being vulnerable, doesn't it? Venus shared her authentic self, and it created this deeper connection with 𝗧𝗎.
It really does show that authenticity breeds connection.
It does. Hiding who we are, well, it just creates distance in our relationships.
And that applies to all our relationships, right? Not just family, romantic, friends, work.
Exactly. The more we can be ourselves, the more we allow others to do the same, the stronger our bonds become.
And sometimes those truly authentic connections, they pop up where you least expect them.
Like with Venus and 𝗧𝗎.
Exactly. They challenge our assumptions about what family is. Their story shows us that family can be built on love, on support, on shared experiences.
It doesn't have to be about blood ties or fitting into this traditional mold.
It's a good reminder that we have the power to define what family means to us.
And those chosen families, those connections, they can be just as strong, sometimes even stronger.
Like they've built this unit based on mutual respect, understanding, and a commitment to figuring out life together.
It's beautiful. And they're doing it with such honesty and vulnerability. It's really refreshing to see.
It's a great reminder that even when things are tough, there's always room for growth, for connection, and for unconditional love.
Yeah. And their story encourages us to look past those superficial things that divide people, to focus on what connects us as humans.
So as we keep exploring Venus and 𝗧𝗎's story, I'm really drawn to the little details, the things that show how deep their bond is, The acts of kindness.
Oh, yeah, those little things can reveal so much.
Like when Venus teaches 𝗧𝗎 to cook fried rice.
Ah, that's sweet. It seems like such a simple thing.
Right. But it's so much more than that.
It is.
It's about connection, sharing family traditions, nurturing each other.
And creating that sense of family.
It shows that family isn't just about big gestures or saying, I love you all the time.
Right. It's about those little moments of shared experience, of laughter, of support, just being there for each other.
It's about having a place where you can be yourself, flaws and all, and know you're loved and accepted no matter what.
And that kind of acceptance, especially in families, can be life-changing.
It really can, especially for young people who are still trying to figure out who they are.
Exactly. It's like 𝗧𝗎 seeing that being different is okay.
Yeah.
Challenging norms is okay.
Yeah.
Embracing your true self is okay.
And the fact that Venus not only accepts him, but celebrates his individuality, that's powerful.
It is. And she encourages him to be true to himself, to let them judge.
That's such a great message of empowerment.
It really is. And it speaks to this larger need for acceptance and understanding in society, especially within families.
Their story is a beautiful example of how families come in all forms, That love and acceptance can exist beyond differences in gender and age, in life choices.
And those differences, they don't have to divide us. They can enrich our lives and make our connections stronger.
It's about seeing the humanity in each other, even when it challenges our own ideas or makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah. And creating a world where everyone feels safe being themselves without fear of judgment.
Their story gives me so much hope.
Me too.
It's a reminder that love and acceptance can be incredibly powerful. They have the potential to change individual lives, but also our communities and even the world.
And it all started with this simple idea: to share their story, to be transparent, to connect with others facing similar things.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
Venus's decision to create transparent as a transparent was such a brave and vulnerable thing to do, and it's obviously resonating with people.
People are craving these types of stories, stories that challenge us to think differently, to see the world from new perspectives, to remember that we're all connected.
And it's these personal stories, these individual voices, that have the power to shift how we think about things and make real, lasting change.
So as we start to wrap up our deep dive into this episode, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what this means on a larger scale.
Okay, yeah.
What can we learn from Venus and Slayman's experience? Things we can apply to our own lives, our relationships, our communities.
Well, their story is a powerful reminder that love and acceptance, they're the foundation of any strong relationship. It's like a call to action to challenge our own biases, to embrace diversity in all its forms, and to build spaces where everyone feels safe to be themselves.
It's about recognizing that there's no one right way to be a family.
Right.
That the most important thing is the love and support we give each other.
And remembering that we all have a part to play in making the world a kinder and more just place.
Their story is a beautiful testament to the power of the human spirit and the transformative power of love and acceptance.
It fills you with hope, doesn't it? Even when things are hard, we can find strength in each other. And we can work together to create a world where everyone is treated fairly.
It's a message that stays with you, you know? It makes you think about your own life, your own connections, and how you can contribute to creating a more inclusive and accepting world.
It does.
And it leaves you feeling hopeful, like change is possible, you know? One story, one connection, one act of love at a time.
I think that's a perfect way to put it.
This one episode, it's really sparked a lot of conversation, hasn't it?
It has. I think it shows how powerful personal stories can be.
Especially when they make us rethink our assumptions about the world. Venus and Slayman have definitely made me see family in a whole new way. It's not just about blood ties or traditional structures anymore, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
They've shown us that family is about being there for each other,
Yeah.
offering support, understanding, and creating that space where everyone feels loved and accepted for exactly who they are.
And challenging those societal norms, the ones that tell us what a family should be.
Oh, absolutely. Venus and Slayman are basically rewriting the rules, showing us that family can be flexible. Those roles can change depending on, what people need and what's going on in their lives.
It's pretty amazing.
And they're creating this more inclusive definition of family, one that embraces all the different ways people connect and build those meaningful relationships.
It's like they're saying, hey, this is our family, and we get to decide what that looks like.
Exactly. And that kind of self-determination, that willingness to challenge the status quo, it's incredibly powerful.
It really is. It reminds me that we all have the power to create the families and communities we want to be a part of.
And it starts with those individual acts of courage, like Venus choosing to live as her true self, and Slayman accepting her without any conditions.
Yeah, and even those small moments, like Venus teaching Slayman to make fried rice.
Right. Those seemingly little things can mean so much.
They really do. It's those moments that build a relationship.
And then there are those bigger conversations, too, like Venus talking to Slayman about her work as an adult entertainer.
I know. It makes you think about what we consider appropriate to discuss with family, doesn't it?
It really does.
Their story is full of these moments, big and small. Moments that show how complex their journey is and how deep their bond is.
And those complexities, they make their story relatable. It reminds us that we all face challenges, we all have to make difficult choices.
And those choices affect us and the people around us.
But it also reminds us that even when things are hard, there's still hope, there's room for growth, for connection, for love.
It's so inspiring. It shows the strength of the human spirit and what acceptance can really do.
I agree.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I just feel grateful that Venus and Slayman shared their story.
Me too.
Their vulnerability and their commitment to creating a more understanding world is pretty incredible.
It is. Their journey is really giving a lot to think about.
Me too. my own assumptions, my relationships, and how I can help make the world a more compassionate place.
It's like their story has planted a seed,
Yeah.
a seed of hope and possibility.
And now it's up to all of us to nurture that seed, to let it grow. So I'll leave you with this. What does Slayman's perspective on his sister's transition teach us about the true meaning of family?
That's a great question.
It might just give you some unexpected insights into love, acceptance, and the bonds that connect us all. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me. It's been a great conversation.